Greetings to you. I'm Virgil Fry with Lifeline Chaplaincy. What an honor to join you, Bering Church of Christ, this day for worship, even though it's with this very limited way online. And it's not my preferred way to be with you, nor is it yours, I'm assuming. Many of us are hungry for a handshake, seeing eyeball to eyeball, hugs, just conversations that catch us up on what's going on. But that's not part of our world right now, and so I'm glad to get to join you on a day that you're focusing upon Lifeline Chaplaincy. So appropriate that you do so. We are always indebted to the Bering congregation. You were part of this ministry when I came here in 1985. You were already providing leadership and support. Leadership with the first chair of the executive board was Dr. Lynn Mitchell. I was looking through Bill Love's book recently, The Core Gospel, and remembering with great fondness what he has brought to so much in the church worldwide, but particularly your congregation and to Lifeline Chaplaincy later in his career. The expansions that we have enjoyed and appreciated with God's help, some of that came from the thinking beyond what we were doing to thinking beyond that with Bill's prompting. The Compassionate Touch program that worked with social workers this last quarter, the second quarter of the year, brought over $93,000 of support to folks like the homeless and the veterans and children and others that are in the hospitals that needed a hand up that we hear about from social workers. That was initially Bill's idea, and what a legacy he has left with all of us. We also are grateful to the development board members that are part of Bering, the Lydes, the Redmonds, Thompsons, the Kuntzes. And of course, your own Dr. Paul Riddle has been kind of hanging around here for 18 years and doing a marvelous job of direct patient care, of providing the oversight of our volunteers that visit multiple hospitals when that is open to us, and also supervising our chaplain interns that are here for the summer and helping the other chaplains to do that as well with the curriculum. So we're very embedded with you and you with us. Thank you for helping us, and we look forward to a long and continued ministry together in the years ahead. This worship this way by online is different. We're all still learning it. I had to learn how to do Zoom even better because I did a 2-week graduate course for Pepperdine University. I was supposed to be in Malibu, but I was right here in this office for 2 weeks, 6 hours a day, working with 10 Master of Divinity students and others with my class on crisis. And so if you have any questions on Zoom, I'm your guy. Just come and ask me. I'm sure I'll be able to help you or to confuse you further because I did that. The world is certainly topsy-turvy, and I will work with you on this format if you'll give me the mercy to glance at my notes occasionally. Instead of looking down, I'm going to have to look over because that's how this is set up right now. The social distancing that we're having to experience, just dealing with the virus. We actually have people within our organization that are dealing with it directly by infection and are in recovery mode from that. Many of us know many people that either have it and some who have passed away from it. It's a very strange and devastating disease that has basically put our whole world in the pandemic mode. And then we've got all that's going on with the racial unrest that's been brought to light of some of the inequities that have been going on for centuries, really, and still need to be addressed in many ways. We've got political discord from all corners that is really trying to create wedges between us instead of joining us together. And then we have a church that's trying to figure out how to be the voice of God in all of this. And sometimes we do better than that than others. Lifeline Chaplaincy was built upon in-house hospital patient-to-patient visits, or patient-to-family visit, or patient-to-staff visits. And all of that's been created change within how we do that. And again, in the second quarter, we have had over 4,000 contacts with folks in some capacity mostly by phone, sometimes with FaceTime and other ways. We're doing much more with social media than we've ever done and reaching out to those. And so much is going on, but it's quite different than what we are used to. And I tend to internalize a lot of this myself. It's part of my wiring and how I'm put together, but I think it's just for all of us. We're feeling the emotional and the psychological effects of distress, of just feeling out of balance, that nothing is predictable or normal, and we don't know when this will change, when it will end, and what the outcome will be. So anxiety is sometimes the name of the game, and we have to learn how to cope with it with our faith, and to use God's presence as a centering for each of us. In Gibran's book, the one that wrote The Prophet, he wrote a book that I have. It's called Jesus, the Son of Man. And I was surprised to find that he had taken the Sermon on the Mount and put it in his own poetic words. And I came across this very familiar passage, but this is how he put it. Be not heedful of the morrow, but rather gaze upon today. For sufficient for today is the miracle thereof. We're all familiar with the passage, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will have enough worry for itself. Comes from, if you go back up to the Matthew version of the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus begins, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you shall drink, or about your body, what you shall wear. Is not life more important than food, and the body more important than clothes? And he goes on and talks about that in great detail, the food and the clothes, and that God clothes the birds and all of that good stuff. And then he says, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans seek after all these things, and that your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first God's kingdom and God's righteousness, and you will have these things as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I thought, this is what I need to hear. More than likely, it's what you need to hear on this particular day. The recentering, the refocusing of Jesus himself, who lived in his own troubling times. The Greek word for worry, and I'm doing this for Jeff Christian's sake, just so he'll be impressed, is merimina, or something close to that. Jeff, this is just for you. This is the second person plural aorist subjunctive active tense of the Greek verb. For the rest of us who maybe speak better in English than we do in Greek, it actually means to be anxious about, to be distracted. And this is the word that Jesus uses all throughout this particular passage. Do not be anxious about, distracted about the things that are temporary, that can be taken away. But know that God is aware of our need. Seek the more important things, his kingdom and his righteousness. It's a message for me that reminds me of God's goodness, of God's graciousness, of God's love in spite of it all. Mark Twain once made the statement, I am an old man and have known a great many troubles, but most of them have never happened. I guess all of us can relate to things that we've worried extensively about that never happened, and we spend a lot of psychic energy doing that. My mom was a tremendous, loving, caring person. Grew up in hard times in the Depression and thereafter on a farm, and knew a lot about worrying. She taught me well that if you worry hard enough about something, it might keep it from happening. Or if it does happen, at least you'll be prepared because you've already worried about it. So we used to tease her a lot about the gift she had of worrying, and it worked for her. She lived to be 88 years old, so maybe it's not such a bad system. I remember visiting one time with a patient at MD Anderson who had been in the hospital just for weeks and weeks and weeks and going through all kinds of treatment. Her name was Dot, and I got to see her on the day she was being dismissed. And so she was in this celebratory mood, but she'd been pretty sick before that because of what she had been through. And I said, Dot, if a doctor or someone had come to you 3 months ago and given you a printout of what each day was going to be like for the next 3 months and overall what you were going to be going through, what would you have responded with to that? She said, I would have looked at it, shaken my head, and said, there's just no way. I'll just give up. But she said, the way that it has worked out, I have learned to live one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time, to get through this. And I keep learning new ways to trust in God for the rest. I filed that away as lessons well learned, lessons that I have to continue to learn, as probably you do too. Most of you know that I helped take care of my wife Carol, who passed away in 2007. The last 2 years of her life were rather brutal for her own health. Her health began to shut down because of being a type 1 diabetic for so many years, and even so much so that she had to go on dialysis. Her bones became quite brittle. Her cardiovascular system was compromised. And slowly she began to lose her independence. And I had to step up and find out what it's like to be more of a full-time caregiver, even though I continued to work. Once she passed away, several months after that, I did our income taxes for that year. And when I sat down, I had to go back and look through my calendar of all of that and see how many medical miles were being added up. And when I went back and started from January to September of that year, we had made 93 trips from our home in Missouri City to the medical center, to a clinic, to a doctor's office, to a hospital. And I looked at that and I just sighed and I said, no wonder I'm still so tired. We had no idea what lay ahead every day, and we were basically in crisis management mode for medical reasons, and we didn't know what the next day would hold. And I thought back to what Dot had said. We had to learn to do what do we have to do today, and with God's help, trust Him for the rest. So Jesus isn't saying don't plan for the future. He's saying don't let worries about tomorrow rob you from the day, or regrets from yesterday rob you of today. As Cabron says, sufficient for today is the miracle thereof. I pray that we will be reasonable people of faith, continue to learn to trust in a God who loves us dearly and totally. And my wish for us all this day, that may we, even in a pandemic, learn to say, today is a gift. I close with Ephesians 3:17 as our benediction. May Christ dwell in your hearts through faith. May you be rooted and founded in love. Amen.
Lifeline Chaplaincy. It's dedicated to providing compassionate support to the seriously ill, their families and caregivers, and to being an educational resource for crisis ministry. It's teaching, loving, caring. And we thank you so much for providing financial support. This enables us to accomplish God's work through the ministry of Lifeline Chaplaincy. Look what we've done with your help in 2019. 19 trainings offered with 289 attendees, 10 summer interns, 5 full-time chaplains, in addition to 200 plus active volunteers, 72 plus hospitals and Christian care centers statewide, 33,426 visits completed in 2019, 1,148 plus followers on social media. That's an increase of over 80% since 2018. 58 partnering congregations supporting us in their yearly budget. Compassionate Touch, 1,623 patients, assisted with $513,520. That's representing 32 states with 116 Texas counties. 11% homeless, 23% veterans, 22% children. Since its founding, Compassionate Touch has provided approximately $4 million to families in need. Our prayer for you is this. We're asking God to cover you with His rich and wondrous blessings. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you.